Oh. Damn it. I spoke too soon. I was like worried. I was like, nothing. Like, I tried to say nothing broke. And here we go. Oh boy. Thankfully, I haven't been struck yet for that. So. Oh no. It's just we got a reload OBS situation. Oh no. Oh no. I'll just like hum really quietly while you talk. I don't know. Shit. Wait. I at least hear the standby music. Wait. Maybe? I at least hear the standby music. Maybe? Also, they can. I don't know if this is. Oh, I can hear that. Also, they can hear us. And the logo and the standby. Also, they. Yeah. I don't know if this is. Also, they can hear us. And the logo and the standby. Yeah. Woo! Welcome to Monspiracy 2. Yeah. Woo! Welcome to Monspiracy. Yes. 2. Yeah, we're really deep in that. I would lower down the background music just like a slight little tad. Oh, apparently there's some reverb too. 2. Yeah, we're really deep in that. I would lower down the background music just like a slight little tad. Oh, apparently there's some reverb too. Yeah, we're really deep in that. I would lower down the background music just like a slight.
Okay, does that fix the reverb by any chance?
Oh, apparently there's some. Yeah, we have really. I would lower down.
Okay, does that fix the reverb by any chance?
Oh, apparently there's. I don't hear any reverb anymore, but we are a little quiet. Like, we're quieter than the music.
Okay, let me turn the music down a bit more. Is that better?
I don't hear any reverb anymore, but we are a little quiet. Like, we're quieter than the music.
Or is that too quiet? Turn the music down a bit more.
Okay, music sounds fine. I think we sound great. But we are
Okay,
a little
awesome.
quiet. Like, we're quieter than the music.
Or is that too quiet? Turn the music down a bit more.
Okay, music sounds fine. Yo, Uni's in the chat.
Okay, yo!
music sounds fine. Yo, Uni's in the chat.
Yo!
Oh, the gaming nerd says he still hears the reverb, but I actually don't. Music sounds fine. Gaming nerd hears a reverb, but I don't hear anything personally. Gaming nerd says he still hears the reverb, but I actually don't. Then again, I do have hearing loss, so I don't know if that's just reverb, but I don't hear anything personally. Gaming nerd says he still hears the reverb, but I actually don't. Then again, I do have hearing loss, so I don't know if that's just reverb, but I don't hear anything personally. Gaming nerd says he's still. Then again, I do have hearing loss, so I don't know if that's just reverb, but I don't copy this. Copy this.
Alright. Tweet and start dumping it in every single promo chat we have.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Alright.
Let's
Start dumping it in every single promo chat we have.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Oops.
Promo chat we have.
Everywhere. Oops. Everywhere. Oops.
Alright. I have dumped all of my promos.
Nice.
So, let's pop back over to here. Alright. I have dumped all of my promos.
Nice.
So, and... Alright. I think we're good to go. So, let's get to it.
Nice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monspiracy Episode 2, which is on titled Visualizer, Capture, and Load. Hello, everyone. And today we will be going over the basic programming that has been involved in Digimon taming essentially since its inception, and how it has changed over the course of the many virtual pets, and how horrifyingly terrifying some of them are.
Yeah, it's just we were talking about it in like our little chat pre-doing this. This entire idea is really morally. I don't even think "gray" is the word for it. It's just definitely not right on like multiple.
Morally
doing this on multiple levels. This entire idea is
many
really
levels.
morally.
On all the levels.
I don't even think "gray" is the
From
word
fresh
for it.
to mega.
Definitely not right on like multiple.
So, morally
doing this on multiple levels. This entire idea is
many
really
levels.
morally.
On all the levels.
I don't even think "gray" is the
From
word
fresh
for
to
it.
mega. Today's episode
Definitely not
is
right.
on, like we said, how has Digimon taming advanced over the years? And it's going to be less theory and more lore. The spoilers for Ghost Game episode 14 are once again are still in effect. We're going to talk about it again.
Crap, which one's 14 again?
The one right after the debut of certain someone. Are still in effect. We're going to talk about it again. So,
Crap, which one's 14 again?
Visualizer, Capture, and Load are 3 programs that essentially are how we go from this to this. Very simple. It's not at all simple.
Crap, which one's 14 again?
Visualizer, Capture, so Digimon Visualizer. Digimon, as you may be aware, are composed entirely of binary data. Ones and zeros, that's all they are. And what we actually see as a Digimon, or the digital world, are actually the output of a visualization program that interprets the binary in a way to make it easier for us to understand, which I personally have dubbed Digimon Visualizer. This program is what led to the development of more controlled environments for experimenting with what Digimon could become, than the net ocean itself, in the form of virtual spaces such as File Island, and what later collectively became known as the digital world. And we will go in a future episode, we will talk more about the specifics of how different digital worlds and shit work, and the collective mapping of it. I use map very, very loosely, because geography does not apply here. So, Digimon Capture. Those of you who are fans of Cyber Sleuth or the story games in general might be familiar with this one. It's the term, but what it is essentially is a more advanced version of the visualizer program that essentially will look and scan the digital world and find a Digimon according to the user's search terms and search parameters, I mean, within the digital world, and then compress its data. We only really have one person who's translated this. Thank you, Ravel, once again. Speaking of which, in the description is the link to Ravel's blog, The Digital World Archive, which you should all go check out if you want more, essentially the Digimon equivalent of the Necronomicon.
Yeah, praise be to Ravel.
Praise be to Ravel. Ravel's blog, The Digital World Archive, which you should all go check out. So, essentially the Digimon equivalent of the Necronomicon. Essentially, I personally am not quite sure if, when it says compress the data, if it's more like the story games, in which it's just collecting the data when it sees the Digimon and creates a copy of the Digimon, or if the Digimon itself is being captured and reverted to Digitama. The story games, in which it's just but regardless, it gives a way for the researchers to directly affect the existence of the Digimon by allowing them to directly interfere with that world by capturing them. But regardless, Digimon Load, however, is where things get interesting. Because, wait, you were gonna say something. I cut you off. I didn't realize.
I know, I said, can capture them, they do.
Yeah, oh yeah. However, so, Digimon Load is where things get interesting. It is a program that can be linked with capture.
I know, I said, can
load
capture
the
them,
Digimon's
they
compressed
do.
data into a Digitama. Oh yeah. It allows the user to raise the Digimon within their own system, with its growth now being directly impacted by its tamer.
I know, I said, can capture them,
This
they do.
is where the concept of a Digimon tamer comes from. This is recorded in version Saturn.
All the way back in, like,
comes back to Saturn.
Yeah, and this was all the way back in, like, what, 97?
Literally, version 5 had not even come out yet by the time that
all the way
Saturn
back in, like,
to Saturn.
Yeah, and this was all the way back in, like, what, 97?
This is base Digimon. Version 5 had not even come out yet by the time
as OG as you could possibly get.
This is what the world was before Adventure. Digimon.
Pre-adventure days. OG as you could possibly
This seems to be
get.
returning to, if the tastes of the people who write Ghost Game are anything to go by. Before Adventure.
Pre-adventure days. OG as you could possibly get.
First up, we will be talking about the classic, the digital monster. This picture right here, that is actually the Devimon that I am running right now. I took the picture earlier, it's on my windowsill. The classic, the digital monster. That's
Man, I didn't know you had a...
this picture right here.
I didn't know you got a green one.
Yeah, no, I actually took
the
picture one of the people from the online server, Sneaks. They sold
Man,
me.
I didn't know you had a. I didn't know you got a green one.
They sold me their Digivice version 15, which I then later broke for like $100. But they threw this guy in as a bonus,
I didn't know you got a green
and was just like, initially it was just to like get some data, and I was gonna send it back, and he was like, nah, dude, keep it. Which I then later broke. But since since I broke the Digivice version 15, I essentially paid $100 for the cheapest Digimon virtual pet.
Well, how did you break the Digivice again? I can't remember.
I was trying to I opened it up so I could try and find a debug mode because I really wanted to hack mod, and I couldn't find one, but the amount of times I opened it and closed it and opened it and closed it put too much stress on the translucent plastic. I was trying to open it
Oh,
up
you know
so I
what?
could try and find a debug mode because I really wanted to hack
Is it?
mod, and
I think
couldn't
there's.
find one, but
You might be able to
times
get
I opened it and closed it.
a replacement shell. I think some people sell replacement shells for the
Translucent plastic. I'll look into that.
Oh,
I'll
you
have
know
to
what?
find the actual pieces because right now they're just in a baggie somewhere back home.
You might
Yeah.
be able to get. Okay,
But-
apparently, before we go any further, apparently there is still reverb and it's really bad, but I can't
Is?
Oh, you
I'll
hear
find the
it
actual
personally.
pieces because right now they're just in a baggie somewhere back home.
You might
Yeah.
be able to get.
I'm not sure how to
Okay,
fix that.
apparently, before we go any further, apparently there is still reverb and it's really bad.
Which side is the reverb coming from? Is it my end or is it Xanadu's end?
You might be able to get.
I'm not sure how to
Okay,
fix that.
apparently, before we go any further, apparently there is still reverb and it's really bad.
Which side is the reverb coming from? Is it my end or is it Xanadu's end?
Okay, apparently, before we go any further, apparently there is still reverb and it's really bad.
Which side is the reverb coming from? Is it my end or is it Xanadu's end?
When you guys have the stream playing, I don't have the stream playing through my speaker personally. So,
I might have had that because I had it open on another tab and I didn't realize it.
oh, that might have been doubling us.
Yeah. Guys, is it better now?
Fingers crossed.
Let us know if it's not.
I'm gonna mute my mic just in case. So.
Okay. Alright. Okay, Track says it's better. And holy crap, we have a lot of people. I was not looking at chat.
Yeah, we have quite a few people in. Okay,
Um,
I
Hello to
think
everyone.
if we. Yeah, so we have obviously Gaming Nerd. We have Uni. We have Bill Cipher, Drac, Slater, Trax, and I think I said one. Welcome everybody. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank
you
you for
stopping by.
watching.
But
There.
I think we're good.
Yeah. Hopefully by next time I will actually remember to set up OBS so that you guys appear on the actual screen.
Oh yeah.
But right, going back to the digital monster.
The OG. Rick.
It's our first one. So it's the first means of raising a Digimon outside of a large or at least desktop scale computer. Because at the time it was the 90s. I am too young to know whether or not laptops were a thing in the 90s.
Oh my god, Blue. The answer's yes. They were pretty chunk and expensive, but they did exist.
Okay. So my point still stands. This was the first means of raising it outside of a large scale computer.
Yes.
Also, if that's
Just
the
to put it
case,
into
how the hell
perspective-
was Izzy going around a fucking summer camp with a laptop that massive in his backpack? That kid must have had like that must have been like fucking like he must have been ripped.
Yeah, no, his parents had to have money because he had like the equivalent of like an iMac, because those are like, it's based on the like 90s iMacs, and those were like mad expensive. Like those were not cheap. Especially because like they were like some of the first, at least that I can remember personally. If anyone else is like, I was born in '95, but you know, I do remember those being very expensive. I've never actually seen one in person, because they were that expensive. I didn't know anyone that owned one. But like at the time, like it was definitely thinner than your average like ThinkPad, which was like one of the more commonly used laptops around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just to put things in perspective, there were laptops back in the 90s and back in like the 90s that had built-in VCRs.
Oh wow!
Instead of DVD drives. That was a thing. So yeah.
Damn. So yeah, I have been schooled for my like out of because of my youth. But as we said, the Digital Monster series is the first means of raising a Digimon outside of a computer, or not outside of a computer, but you get the idea. It essentially what it does is it combines the capture and load programs with the basic taming systems we all recognize, such as statistics, like your Digimon stats, food and pill generation, training minigames, combat connection, cleaning up waste data, sleep mode, etc., etc. All the things that we're used to. Repair programs, all the works. Officially, it is referred to as the Mobile Monster Training Battle Simulator, and its casing is called a dock, which is the origin of the Dock and Rock tagline. So, first off, the reason we call it a digital monster or a Digimon is because the actual name is just a massive fucking mouthful.
What do you mean? The good old MMTBS rolls right off the tongue.
Rolls right off the tongue. But in addition to that is when you think about it, officially, the lore for the Digital Monster series as a whole, of like all of the virtual pets, is a bunch of hackers and researchers were messing around with it online. And then the researchers make a deal with Bandai in order to get funding. And the deal is that Bandai would pay them to continue their Digimon research, and in exchange, they condensed the research programs and the taming system to a small enough point where it could be put on a keychain virtual pet. And then it used that keychain virtual pet as a means of... And they sold that to kids, and then those kids, the way they raised their Digimon, that data was then sent back to be used for research purposes.
Research purposes? Well, it was research purposes, but it's
it was
like
genuinely
shady.
Research purposes. This is shady as hell.
They're like, well, how did the kids do this shit?
Programs are being put in the hands of children just to see what would happen.
And they just did it. They did that. They were like, all right, well, we have enough data on our end, but let's see, like, what happens if we put them in kids' hands? Like, how would the Digimon grow and react?
Yeah.
So, every Digimon that you've killed in your failed runs was a poor sentient being.
If it makes you feel any better, though, they do actually... it is... Like, the Revert to Digitama is not something they made up. Tamers is a lie. It is the same Digimon when it comes back, and it does remember what you did to it.
Oh, no.
So, keep that in mind. If you don't try and get your Numemon to be a Monzaimon, it will remember that you gave up on it because it didn't look as good as you wanted it to. And if you think this is the most messed up kind of Digimon taming, well, we are not even close.
No, sadly not.
So, next up, we've got the Digimon Pendulum. Mon, Digimon, Mon, Pendulum, Pendulum, Mon.
Okay, no, I don't have
I'm gonna get copyright struck by Toei because I said those words.
Oh my god, can you imagine?
So yeah, the Pendulum is an upgrade of the previous dock. Its capture data is based around the various areas of the Folder continent, which is where we get our classic fields, nature spirits, deep sabers, etc., etc. All of them have different areas of the Folder continent, which, like File Island, was an artificially created virtual space. This one divided up into areas to provide specific environmental influences, thus resulting in more thematically appropriate Digimon. Because if you literally take a bunch of Digimon and trap them in a tank full of water or ocean data, they're going to incorporate the ocean data.
Who would have thought?
This is the main reason for the difference in essentially how random the rosters are in the original Digital Monster series compared to the Pendulums. Incorporated a number of new mechanics for the actual raising system. The Pendulum system, in which shaking the right amount boosts the Digimon's power. It introduced the Mega level, which is a higher evolution than the perfect stage. And Jogress, in which two Digimon share data in order to achieve different evolutions. It is a portmanteau of joint progress, which actually comes from how, when you actually connect two classic pendulums together, and this is maintained when you do it through the Pendulum 20th and the Pendulum Z, and most things that have a Jogress system. When you're connecting two devices for a Jogress, both Digimon will evolve into something different. It's an exchange of data. It is only on devices or circumstances where the two Digimon are on the same device that one will actually be used up as, essentially, fodder.
Yeah. Fodder's the only way to put it, sadly.
Yeah. So yeah. Next up, we get the Pendulum Progress, which is kind of just like the Pendulum... The Digital Monster through the Progress are kind of just like a straight up kind of like straight line of, they're just like a higher level version of the previous one. So this one has a more advanced pendulum system, which has 4 possible power levels and results. Evolution parameters now include day-night cycles of when you battle and train. And it introduces the Field of Dragon's Roar to the virtual pet line, and debuts the first of the X-Antibody variants. I'm not joking. Metal Garurumon X and Leomon X were on the Pendulum Progress.
It's so crazy to me that they did that, too.
Yeah. Especially because, I'm pretty sure that, they didn't actually clarify they were X-Antibody versions until after afterwards?
Yeah, I think there was, I wouldn't say posthumous, but it was like a...
It was, kind of revealed with the reveal of, the X-Antibody stuff. This is what those variants were.
Yeah. Which is just, that still gets to me.
Yeah.
They were getting a little sneaky. Because this one has, speaking physically, this one introduces the bigger screen, which is pretty much used from here on out, I think.
Yeah, mostly.
And so... A lot of them looked a bit bigger and meaner, but those two look especially bigger and especially meaner, and that was why, because they were the X evolutions.
Right. And that's when, and speaking of X evolutions, we now come to the Pendulum X. You may have heard of this one. It's considered the most one of the most painful devices to run outside the cycle, but that's weird.
Definitely up there.
Yeah, there's one right now.
I thankfully have one ready to go. Yeah, definitely not the easiest. Definitely not the easiest.
Yeah, this makes getting to perfect on the Digital Monster look like child's play.
But this makes practically almost every V-Pad I've run look like child's play. This thing is definitely not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, so it's built around the X-Antibody. This pendulum uses the XAI as a means of drastically powering up your Digimon, though with a high risk of drawback. If you roll high, nice. If you roll low, whoa.
Not nice.
Yeah.
At all. So
it also introduces the X level, which is a means of measuring Digimon's loyalty. This never comes back.
No. And this was like this device did some pretty interesting things. So
it did. It's actually the debut of adventure mode as a concept.
Yeah, true. At least like
thing we had is Pendulum Progress had a survival mode Coliseum, where basically it's just like how long can you last without losing.
And even then, like with the Pendulum, with the Progress, it was so hard because they could evolve. So like if you beat them up enough, they'll evolve, and then they start beating you up. So
yeah,
it wasn't really a great way to grind battles at all.
Yeah. And so the Pendulum X kind of expanded on that with a full-on adventure mode, which has returned in recent years and has become somewhat standard, actually.
Yeah, which is really cool about this one. This one also does something interesting with like hunger meters and everything else, where it's all based on the lights that are shining on the device itself. So the higher the numbers of lights that are showing are better, but then there's also like different like kind of like shapes the lights can be lit up on, and that can also influence different things. I've never seen anyone really get into that, if like what the difference are, but there is a difference. I don't know what it is, but there's a difference.
Yeah. Deep dives into the virtual pets are fun, which is why I can't wait to talk about this next one. The Digimon Accelerator.
This one is the bomb. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. This device is so
This
fun.
is so fun, so enjoyable. I'm kind of an expert on this one, and most importantly, this is the most morally fucked up device on the entire system. So, I don't know... Okay, I do actually know how to go backwards now. Awesome. So, something that you may notice about the Digimon Accelerator, which, up until now, and for the next couple pets after, is... and for at least one pet after, is kind of different from the others. You may have noticed the complete lack of background.
Oh. Is there a lore explanation for that? I didn't even realize that.
Officially, no. Actually, inside of my crazy head, absolutely.
Well, in the world of Monspiracy,
in the world of Monspiracy, there is always a lore explanation. And it's always Saturn. So, the Digimon Accelerator is the most direct taming system to date. Digivolution parameters exist in terms of DNA, Digimon Natural Ability, which are gathered and fed to the monster. DNA is broken down into a system similar to the fields, where basically it's got like beast, dragon, holy, fish, insect, plant, bird, etc., etc. You quite literally feed them to your Digimon, and it will evolve once it reaches a certain once it's eaten a certain number of DNA, based on the amounts of DNA of differing types that it ate. In short, rather than its evolution being determined directly on care, it is quite literally determined by the data you are literally providing for it. Rather than having a controlled environment of, this one's all fish-themed, this one's all animal-themed, this one, etc., etc. These are literally built around the idea of the Digimon evolves based on the precise data you are providing for it. And if that doesn't at least make you a little bit uncomfortable, how about taking the core of your Digimon, as in the part that actually allows it to live, and spinning it like a fucking... spinning it like the Wheel of fucking Fortune.
I did not know that's what we were doing when we were pushing the button. That's pretty fucked.
The Excel grip is literally spinning the Digicore. That's what the that's what the RPM is measuring. It's the amount of rotations of the Digicore, which can empower the monster, and if done correctly, after the perfect level, trigger Blast Digivolution. Whether this means that it's tapping in, whether this is some kind of sick and twisted way of basically using the Digicore interface style thing to actually trigger a higher stage of evolution temporarily, or if it's just a means, or if it's literally as fucked up as producing an intense stress response to basically force a temporary evo on your Digimon, is not yet known. Do you see what I mean?
They really gave us free reign this time.
Yeah. We don't get to mess with them nearly as much as with this anymore. Except we do, because the Vtuber is honestly kind of equally messed up. Moving on, we have the Mini, which is actually pretty interesting from when looking at things from this point of view.
Yeah, I forgot about these little guys.
Yeah. It's a compressed taming system which has the smallest size of any dock to date. It lacks a number of features such as a menu system or a means of checking statistics, and different button combinations are actually used to access its different features. So there's not really much to write home about on this one. It's basically just a smaller digital monster. However,
you could argue that, like, because the Digimon Mini is also the 10-year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much the Digimon version 10, and you could argue like who knows, maybe like the Digilab were like, all right, well, we can't get the kids to play them, so we'll get them to play them as adults and see if there's any difference any different things we can see they can find.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. If you guys missed the Monspiracy episode 1.5 over on Xanadu's channel, which you should go check out,
I believe it was the last
Digilab
live stream I've done.
Yeah, I think so. The Digilab is actually a legitimate group, which is one of the groups behind Digimon Research. So we've kind of taken to calling the people who work on Digimon as a whole, at the very least for the virtual pets, the Digilab. Because it just seems fitting. Canonically. That's who they are.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Alright, so, next up is the Digivice IC, which kind of takes things back in an Excel direction, but not nearly as messed up of a manner. It's actually more similar to the VB, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We made a lot of DATS, like, comparisons when we did the first episode on the DIM and the VB.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So, it's an advancement of the Excel and Mini systems, but with a partial return to form in terms of visualization. And what I mean by that is that the Minis returned to the 16x16 format, but the Digivice IC is the first time a Digimon pet actually really shows a kind of difference in data size. And what I mean by that is that in the early stages, it maintains a 16x16 sprite. But as it grows and develops, the actual sprite resolution will change to take up a larger amount of the screen.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't own the Japanese IC. I didn't know that was how it worked.
Yeah, no, like, if you start out with, going back, if you start out with Agumon, as you can see, that's the pendulum sprite. That's the pendulum Agumon.
Yeah.
But Shine Greymon will basically be like a full-on, like, actual, like, take up the whole screen kind of sprite. That's why there's so much room.
Wow. There. What? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. The DNA system is refined to Digisoul. It works in a fairly similar system, but it's actually been refined to the point that for the entire roster, any Digimon of a given level can become any Digimon of the next level. Some people weren't big fans of that, but to be honest, it is the most effective raising system we've ever had in that regard.
Yeah, I get why people don't like it, but at the same time, it's just so fun. Like,
it's so fun, and it's so Digimon.
It is like I don't know. It feels right. Just feels right. Okay.
It does feel right. It feels right. It also, I believe, well, this is technically the case with the Digimon X as well, but I believe it works a bit differently on that one, where you need to like use them multiple times to change the data. The Digivice IC is the first time on a virtual pet where you can literally use an item once and it will trigger a specific evolution.
Oh, okay.
Like the classic like Digivolution items from like World and shit are actually a thing on the pet.
Huh. I gotta get one of these.
They're actually really fun, especially because of their use of infrared. It uses IR sensors to not only connect to other Digivice ICs, but also to connect to other non-racing systems, such as the Card-Ass Battle Terminal, which was an arcade game. You literally would bring your Digivice to the arcade and scan in the Digimon you raised to play the game.
Yeah, there's a home version of that too, right? I believe Airtron owns
I have it.
Okay.
Oh,
you have one too?
Myself. Yeah, actually, what happened was Red got his hands on both a Digivice IC, like version 2, and the card terminal, but then he was low on funds, and I was looking for one, so I actually bought it off him. And that's how I got mine. So I have actually experimented with it a little bit. It's very interesting, because it's a rock, paper, scissors style fighting game, where basically it like incorporates like Tamer style card slash. It incorporates rock, paper, scissors mechanics where you pick one at first, and then the two Digimon on the screen actually fight, and depending on the RPS, it will actually determine which one of you hits. It's actually really interesting and complicated. It's fun.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that involved.
It is that involved, because, like, if you have a tie, it doesn't just have, like, their shots explode each other. Each Digimon has stats in R, P, and S, which determines who would win in the event of a tie.
Wow. It's, like, involved. Holy shit.
It is involved. I'm actually, like, now that I say it out loud, I wonder if that's going to be something they do with the new Vital Brace PvP.
That would be so cool.
It would be so cool. So yeah, it held a number of systems that were unique to the IR docks, such as, hats, it had, the evolution items I mentioned earlier, and its successor, the Burst, which is actually the point where Digimon started to go full IR and cut out prongs entirely.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Not the best move, but it was one that they took. Seems to have been named for the refined type of blast of Digivolution that it featured. Burst Digivolution. Or Burst Mode.
Oh. Also, Digital World Order's in chat.
Yo! Hey! Thank you for coming to the stream.
Oh yeah, the Mushi King V-Pets also had IR. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Ooh, trophies could be a good way of doing that, yeah. Also, Wash, you are absolutely correct. Card-Ass is fucking hilarious. Every time I read it, I'm like, did they actually name it that? Is that actually the name of a Digimon card game?
Yep, Card-Ass.
Like,
I think it's
those
supposed to be
weren't
card.
even the ones where, like, they had, like, sexy artwork and shit.
I think it's supposed to be like Card DOS, but like I don't know. It just doesn't. What the fuck is that even supposed to mean? Who knows? They didn't. I don't know what's wrong with them. And the fact that they still call it that is hilarious. Like even like
these
the
are
newer
the people who officially on the web, like for quite some time on their official website had Orgymon.
Yeah. Let's not get into that.
Digimon is not for kids. Or at least not kids who have good morals.
Yeah.
And speaking of not so good morals, the twin is actually the best morals ever on a Digivice.
I forgot that the twin was. I keep forgetting. Every time I think of like the VPET like lineage, I always feel like it stops at the burst. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I always forget about the twins.
Yeah. So the Digimon twins, as you can see, they use IR very similarly. It's what those little like disconnects are. It came in the L and R, and they're kind of unique because they're the first instance of a dual raising system, which has become somewhat commonplace, though the means in which it happens varies. It is also the only device to feature non-combat interactions between the units Digimon that weren't Evo related. There are interactions beyond battling and jawgressing on this device where two Digimon can basically just play together. Which is fairly interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think they've ever really ever brought this back. Like that idea of like, oh, they just kind of like interact with each other. They're not trying to kill each other constantly every time they get next to each other.
Yeah. Which I have to admit, it's a bit off topic, but in Ghost Game's first episode, one of the things Hiro says is, "Are Digimon always this bloodthirsty?" The answer is yes.
Yeah, I forgot.
The answer is yes.
It's always on site, regardless.
Like in Pokemon, it's like two trainers have to lock eyes. In Digimon, you have to keep your fucking dock in your pocket because the Digimon will just... If the Digimon see each other, they're already fighting.
Yeah. It's just on site.
Like, we've all seen Tamers. Guilmon can detect a new Digimon to fight from fucking 5 miles away.
It's always been cooked into the lore. Just like,
Yeah.
Digimon know when another one is near, and they have to fight it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
man.
speaking
I don't
of
have any of
battles-
the L or Rs.
Yeah, I don't have it either. But speaking of battles, they require more attention as after a severe loss, a Digimon could enter a defenseless state that had to be cared for. Very similar to the way the Vital Brace does it, where you need to actually give them time to recover from their injuries.
Yeah.
And now we come to the Cross Mini, which is an interesting experiment.
This
A failed one, but an interesting one nonetheless.
Yeah.
So it adapts the mini system to the new Digicross or Digifuse program. Which, if you haven't seen Cross Wars, basically Digi-Megazord.
Yeah.
Except unlike Atmon, they don't need to be compatible in order to combine. Except on this device, where they do need to be compatible to combine.
But we don't. We can ignore that for the sake of this video.
Yeah. So, it adapts the mini system in order to utilize this new program that has kind of taken the place of Evolution in this case. The way it works is an X battle or cross battle is used to load capture data as enemies, and then compatible enemies can then be crossed with on defeat. So, for example, on the Shoutmon Mini, regardless of what Digimon you had, if you beat Dondokomon, the drum Digimon, in battle, you could then Digicross with it and get Shine Greymon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was like, and if you had Shine Greymon, and then you went and fought Ballistamon, you could Digicross with that, and go back down to Shoutmon X2.
This is why the Digifuse system is so weird to me.
Yeah. So, poor care would result in the cross breaking down, leaving the tamer with just the base Digimon. And crosses were formed they were determined by a single other Digimon, almost Draugr style. So forms could go up and down the roster rather than having a path. So you could theoretically go, if you had like good enough luck and had like shoved enough pills down Shoutmon's throat, go straight to Cross 5, then go down to Cross 2, then go back to Shangri-Mon, go back down to Vmon, and then finish off at Cross 4B. All in the span of like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this one was a weird one. Despite having the 3-prong system that was present on the Mini, this unit does not actually have the ability to connect to anything other than another Cross Wars Mini. This is why this experiment was a failure.
Yeah, I still don't understand why they did that.
There is literally no reason why, because the Pendulum X battle system, from the research we've done into how it works, is actually incredibly adept at actually functioning in a way that works for something like this. There's a reason it was ported directly over to the Mini. But with a different but with a different mini game to power them up. It quite literally was an incredibly versatile battle system that a system like Cross Wars could actually make great use of. But they didn't. So yeah, and now we get to some things that might seem a bit more familiar, which is the 20th rebuilds, as I call them, which include the Digital Monster version 20th, the Digimon Pendulum version 20th, and the Digital Monster Revival. Or, in short,
Digimon.
The DM20, the DMR, and the DM Trash.
You cannot redo.
Yes. So, the 20th rebuilds are, in general, just a revamping of their original counterparts. They updated and enhanced the available capture data of the original docks with new Digimon. So, as an example, the version 1 egg on the Digital Monster version 20th, in addition to all of the classic Digimon, now also includes Blitzgreymon, Bancho Mamamon, and, as a fusion state for Blitzgreymon, Omegamon Ultra S. Basically, every egg got that treatment. In addition, they added new eggs in the form of the Anniversary Digimon. So, we got, the 5th Anniversary Digimon Dorumon, we got the 10th Anniversary Digimon Dracomon, we got the 15th Anniversary Digimon Hackmon, and we got the 20th Anniversary Digimon Zubamon. And I'm just talking about the Digital Monster version 20th because I don't like talking about the Pendulum 20th. It's terrible.
It's so bad. Like, bad.
And now we have confirmation that it's never coming to the States! I am ecstatic over this.
We haven't talked about that yet, but yeah, we might not be getting this at all anymore, which is a little bit of a bummer, but at the same time,
if it gets listen, comparatively, it would be better to get a Vital Brace with rosters that eventually include everything on the Pendulum 20th than to just get a Pendulum 20th.
Yeah, it's Pen 20th. It's such a weird device.
It was an attempt was made. That is all.
Yeah.
The 20th devices added the Copymon and Tag Raising systems. Copymon being the ability to basically, it would keep track of all of the Digimon that you had raised in an album or field guide, and you could then send copies of that Digimon's data to another device, which could then be used to aid them in battle, or, if it was a specific compatible Digimon, such as, let's say, you raise a Blitzgreymon, and your friend has raised Crescarurumon at some point, they can send you a Copymon of Crescarurumon, and then by using that Copymon, you can get your Blitzgreymon to Digivolve into Omegamon Ultra S. Or sorry, Digifuse into Omegamon Ultra S. And it is currently available at retail in a number of fun colors. # not yet sponsored.
Not yet.
Not yet. Someday.
And currently about to be re-released in 4 more colors, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yep. And Xandu's gonna buy them all.
Yeah, no, it's bad. Check out the last stream for that. I think I did that on the last stream. Yeah. I showed off the ridiculous amount of bricks I own right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're the reversion revivals.
You've got enough bricks to make a wall.
Honestly, yeah. No, seriously, it's really bad. Hopefully these next ones are the version revival. I hope they are. They're probably not. I think it's been confirmed that they're not.
They're not, but we don't know. Not yet, at least. So next we have the Digimon X series. So the Digimon X series actually has lore being a lot more involved than it usually is. We got a full-on manga as like a pack-in manga.
I have an X2 on display.
Yes. So it's a return to the old digital world, decades after Project Arc. If you don't know what we're talking about there, don't worry. There will be an episode on that soon, I promise.
Yeah.
But there's an order to these things because if I don't cover these now, if we don't cover this now, when we get to those, you're not going to have any idea what we're talking about. But it also introduced a number of features that have become standard at this point. So it introduces the battle cut-ins when a Digimon unleashes its full power, and it introduces the level system to simplify Digivolution parameters. It replaces the tag system with the backup system, which allows multiple Mons to be raised in one dock, but it can only have one Digimon active at a time. This is the system that is currently present on things like the Vital Brace and would be used going forward in place of the tag system. Is it better? Arguably. But this is what they chose as the main one.
I definitely miss Raising 2 at once. It was fun while it lasted. Who knows?
Maybe they'll bring that back for
maybe the BE will bring it back.
And it is also currently available at retail in a number of fun colors, except for the X2, because that had a programming error, and as such, it was on recall and will soon be released back to shelves. And again, hashtag not yet sponsored. Don't worry, I'm not going to make that joke again, because those are the only 2 I can make it on.
Well, you could make it on the Vital Brace.
I could, but I didn't actually put a picture of the Vital Hero into this yet. I just have the old Vital Brace stuff from the first episode. So yeah, the Pendulum Z, that's our next one. And this is a fusion of the Digimon X and the Pendulum systems. It retains the cut-in visualizations, level system, and the backup system, and returns to the folder continent in which new Digimon have been discovered in each area and field. These new Digimon would then go on to prove that anyone who bought this device was totally wasting their money because they all showed up in the Vital Brace.
Yikes! There's a couple stragglers. Like I don't think Entmon has showed up yet on anything. But yeah, they pretty much all. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, that was unfortunate, huh?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. Like that kind of throws a wrench in our idea of like maybe the original DIMs were supposed to be more spread out, because like. That would mean that the Digimon were releasing in retail, like on retail shelves, while the pre-orders for the Penzies were still up.
Oh, yeah, I mean Bandai's done weirder. Like, remember when like the DMX2 didn't even come out yet, and like they already had pre-orders for the DMX3?
That's true, but they'd literally be shooting themselves in the foot by having the like for example, the flagship Digimon of Nature Spirits and Deep Savers are the flagship Digimon of Infinite Tide and Titan of Dust.
True. A little unfortunate.
Yeah. But basically, these if you're going to get a Pendulum, get the Pendulum Z. It's the best Pendulum.
Yes.
Its adventure system, unfortunately, isn't quite as fun as the Digimon X.
No. A lot more simplified.
It's a lot more simplified, but they also actually made a decent shaking mechanic for once in their lives.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to tell, like, you know, they literally just go, shake it this many times.
Yeah.
We're not going to give you numbers or any of that bullshit. Just shake it. If it's what we tell you, then you're good.
Yeah. And not only is it actually easier to tell, you can actually tell for once.
True.
Because every other device that has, like, a number-based one, they don't tell you what number you reached until after you've finished pressing the button.
Which,
So if it's a high number, good luck counting it out.
Yeah, you just gotta feel it. I remember a lot of guides back in the day literally just told you, like, feel it out. Like, don't worry about trying to count it, just feel it out. It's a rhythm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like half and half with the pendulum mechanics, but I will agree with you that the Z does it the best, where it demystifies it and simplifies it in a way where you don't look like a crazy maniac trying to get the best or optimal count for your Digimon, which was fun to say the least when that happened.
Also, apparently, Bandai's official site, which is where I got a lot of the information for this one, beyond the original Pendulum era, has some interesting stuff in their Hall of, like, VPET things. And something I noticed about that, of how, like, you had to, like, feel it out. Bandai officially acknowledges the existence of Blast Evolution on the Excel. But when the Excel was having, like, tournaments and shit back when it first dropped, apparently no one knew about that. Like, that was, like, almost like the Street Fighter, like, or whatever the heck, Mortal Kombat, the fatalities, where, like, you had to, like, get, like, really, really lucky to have it happen.
Wow. So, like, what?
So people
they must
would
have
just,
gotten
like,
hyped.
randomly have, a crazy thing happen on their end, where their Digimon all of a sudden just, like, changes randomly, shoots a massive beam at the enemy that possibly one-shots them, and then when they go and try to do it again, it just acts like it was normal. Because they have no idea what triggered it.
That's I wonder if, like, Flaming Teddymon was, like, the inspiration of that.
Yeah. Honestly, that would be awesome. But, yeah, so that's the Pendulum Z, and so we finally return to our first episode's focus, the Vital Brace.
I have the Digivice B on display, but...
And this is quite literally just a straight-up rehashing of the slides that I used last time. I will admit that right now. It is unique amongst the Digimon Virtual Pets because a lot of the usual raising mechanics that have been standard across these, like food and training minigames, have been replaced with a system based on heart rate and fitness, such as the Vital Points system, which impacts a number of features, and the mission system, which replaces training, and also incorporates a wide variety of what we previously thought were new features, such as the DIMS and VB Lab. But we've come back to this basically to correct our work on that front, because... Oh, shoot! Speaking of evolution, I just got a Wormmon.
Oh, nice! I also have a Wormmon right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much what Azu's getting at is the fact that, you know, initially we were talking about how, like, cool and fresh the VB felt, and how the mechanics seem so new and interesting compared to how we used to do it.
But in reality, they're more like a reimagining of the classic stuff. Which...
Yeah.
So, like, VB Lab? Like we were saying, Digilab's been around since day fucking one. Earlier than that, even.
Yeah, and so the VB Lab, and even like the way that DIMs work, it's just the Digimon capture system.
It is the Digimon. It's actually really interesting compared to all the other ones. So, as we mentioned before, the Vital Brace uses the DIMS data to create a Digitama. It's created when a Digitama is created whenever a DIM is inserted outside the transfer process. Created Digitama is limited to the data on the DIM, and a blank Digitama cannot be created. DIM data is required. The Vital Brace is literally using Digimon load in this circumstance. Like, that is literally the load program.
Yeah.
It can also use the DIMS data to replicate the Digimon's natural environment, which, again, seems to be something that, like, would be utilized by an advanced form of the capture program. Lastly, it can apply the DIM data to external stimuli in the form of NFC battles. So, we talked about this last time, but this is basically the visualizer system at work. The way that it basically takes the closest appropriate textures and slaps them on whatever you're fighting.
And now we know, like, a lot of, like, really, Digimon in general are just, like, random code that is put together and visualized by us, or, like, the hackers that originally made them. Mm-hmm. So the idea of, like, oh, well, you get, like, some random Digimon, that's just, like, the random code floating inside of, these different NFC terminals that the Vital Brace then visualizes and then you fight.
Yeah, which, again, it's kind of interesting how it's the visualizer program basically running off the limited visualization data it has access to from the DIM. And speaking of DIM, this is where things get interesting. So, as we covered last time, it stands for Digimon Identified Memory. The terminal system was basically the reason we needed to cover this episode. The terminal system was actually us completely misunderstanding shit. The virtual pets don't actually directly connect to the digital world. The Digimon capture program takes from the digital world and is what allows us to actually raise things. This is why we all can have, like, 1,000 fucking Omegamons, and it doesn't cause any problems for the digital world. Because the Omegamon that is a Royal Knight is the one that's in the digital world. Our Omegamon are not in the digital world.
It's a facsimile of what an Omegamon is, essentially.
Not necessarily. There's nothing to say that our Omegamon aren't equally as powerful. It's just that our Omegamon are limited to our raising systems. They do not have access to the digital world as a whole, or to the larger network.
Yet.
So, it does still seem to record data on a specific environment and the Digimon who live there. The Digimon capture program. Data seems to connect to, well, at the time of writing, it was a single rookie. We now know that multiple rookies are coming to the DIMS!
Thank God.
Thank God.
Because it seems like actually that's going to be just common in general, because...
yeah, it's not only on the Frontier DIMS, it's now on the
V3.
Yeah, the V3. Well, actually, the V3, we don't... Do we know if it's going to be a shared DIM or if it's going to be a set of two?
So, from what I've been told, it's going to be shared.
Nice.
So, it's going to have... The two rookies on that will be Espimon and Ludomon.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a bit interesting to think about, like, if Ludomon's on, a shared DIM, and Zudomon isn't the other one, what's Zudomon's gonna be?
That's exactly what I keep thinking of.
Not Zudomon, Zudomon.
Yeah, but no, you're on the right track. Like, I've been thinking the same thing. Like, if they're not gonna be together, like, what are we gonna pair Zubamon with? I mean, I guess we could do what the 20th did and pair him with Hackmon, but I don't know.
Could pair him with Hackmon. It could be that we're going to get yet another new Digimon. It could be that the idea behind Espamon is to create the mega worthy of wielding Browiludrimon's shield, and thus we will have to go up against, and then later down the line we'll get something worthy of wielding Durandamon's sword.
Oh, that would be cool. Or even like maybe like Espimon's like a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Or like maybe it's another like either he's another piece of the puzzle and we'll get like another duel thing where like we're gonna get like 2 25th anniversary Digimon and he'll be with Zubamon, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. That could happen.
Or just like you said, we might have enough room on the dim, depending on how many new evolutions we get. There might be enough room on the dim to just like add most of the Zubamon evolutions. Kind of like what they did with Cherrymon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the American dims are also going to have 2 rookies, at least Wolf Howl and Dinosaur Roar, I think it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, both Wolf Howl and Dinosaur Roar are confirmed to end up having 2 rookies. Those 2 rookies are, of course, Agumon, Gabumon, and their black recolor equivalents. So Agumon Black and Black Gabumon.
It's going to be super sick.
Yeah. I keep having like this weird thing happen on my end where like I don't have the Discord pop-out window as a high enough tab, like on like the like list of like priorities, and so it will freeze your camera. But yeah, so the DIM contains the information used to create a Digitama. In short, the data on a DIM is the Digimon capture program. Or rather, the output of the Digimon capture program. What I mean to say here is that for the first time in Digimon's history, the capture program is not a component of the virtual pet. Rather, the Digimon capture program is used to create the prime DIM from which all DIMs in a given series are created. So, Gamamon capture data is used to create all the Gamamon DIMs. Impulse City capture data, that's what's used to create the Impulse City DIMs and the Pulse City DIMs, etc., etc. That is how the DIM system works. Which is just really interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially considering that, like, it means that, like, this kind of goes back to just being, it has Digimon load and Digimon visualize. Capture's supposed to be the advanced form of visualize, but instead, visualize is just taking the capture data that's been essentially stored in the bracelet because of the Digimon that's currently on it, and uses that to visualize any incoming data.
Which is just interesting because, like, they were able to, like, future-proof their entire franchise because, like, with the advent of, like, new technology and us being able to just, like, load Digimon into, like, the brace instead of it constantly having to be preloaded like all the previous devices, like, giving us this ability already makes sense because, like, we've already been able to, like, capture and load Digimon, you know, at least in lore purposes. Hackers have been able to do this, like, on a desktop freely whenever. It's just like putting them in toy form. There was always a restriction just because there were restrictions on the technology. But now there's less restrictions on technology that we have with toys. We're able to capture the Digimon, place them into, like, some kind of receptacle, and have the Vital Brace itself kind of be just like a terminal for everything, which is, like, really interesting. Like, they were able to future-proof this. Like, this concept was able to continue and grow. I don't know. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's insane. Especially
like the way they were able to
considering that, like, there are two things that actually is really interesting about. The first is that the Digimon, the capabilities of Digimon capture over the years, and its ability to basically, as the system... So one of the things we talked about in 1.5 was how Digimon are able to essentially condense their own data in order to avoid crashing the system they're currently housed on. And that this is the case for the visualizing program as well. It's why we can go from having Agumon in 16x16 to Agumon in 45x45 on the Vital Brace.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the actual resolution. I'm just giving an example based on the statements.
It's some weird resolution.
It actually kind of varies, depending on the system used to actually look at it. I will admit, I have looked at it. I haven't really done anything with my stuff. I haven't really modded anything yet. I wouldn't be against modding things for myself, but keep in mind, piracy bad.
Yes.
Piracy...
We would never...
Yeah. You wouldn't download a Digimon. Which is hilarious to think about, because all we've ever done is download Digimon.
Without asking them.
Yeah. But yeah, so... But anyway, the DIM's resolutions actually vary wildly between different sprites, just because of, how much room, and the combination of how much room we have, with the fact that we have actual access to color now, means that the sprite artists were basically able to go wild with what they were doing.
Sure.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's actually incredibly interesting to consider, because, the visualizer program, as our systems have gotten better, it's canonically gotten better. Literally, the reasoning behind the reveal of Omegamon's shoulder missiles in Colon is that the visualizer program was actually at a high enough state where it could visualize different kinds of ranged attacks from Omegamon and not just reduce them all to Supreme Cannon.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was on, an interview or something. And in the same way, Ravel made a Twitter post earlier today, because I am always keeping an eye out for when Ravel drops new things, as you know. Talking about the Digimon reboot line, which, for those of you who aren't in the know, it's kind of the ancestor of the Digimon Amplified model kits, which, while it basically flopped with its Omegamon, which is basically the same.
Yeah, which is a shame, because those were some cool designs.
They were, and apparently, not only were they some cool designs, but they pulled a Metarot dim before the Metarot dim did. According to official lore materials, the origin of the Digimon reboot systems is actually Digimon updating their texture data using Gunpla design programs.
Oh.
Bandai taking advantage of that multiple IP power.
Which they should do again, honestly.
The
current the current line of model kits are a smash hit. It's kind of surprising they haven't.
I want amplified. If you're going to put War Greymon in another goddamn dim, at least make it an amplified War Greymon.
Please. Oh my god, an amplified dim would be actually be really, really sick, and they could reincorporate.
So cool.
They'd be able to incorporate those canceled ones. Oh yeah.
Make amplified a full-on subline like X Antibody.
Oh my god. Why not at this point? There's already so many different variants, it wouldn't hurt, why not add some more?
Yeah,
especially if they look
more.
this goddamn cool.
They look so good. They look so cool. They look so good. Honestly, like, imagine, like, amplified War Greymon in the Vital Brace, where it, like, instead of looking like the normal War Greymon, it's got, like, the variant design. So, like, it's got, like, the Brave Shield on its actual, like, it could, like, have the Brave Shield on its arm for when it gets, like, on its arm for when it gets hit. Its attack animation could be a punch where it's, like, dual-wielding the Dramon Destroyers instead of just having it on one hand.
Yes, honestly,
like, yeah,
that'd
like
be so cool.
Like the ones where it's got, like, because you can configure it so that it has both on the same hand.
Yeah.
Or, like, another thing that it could do is, for its movement, it could actually have the Brave Shield, like, break into the pieces for the wings like it does on the model kit.
That would be so cool. There's just so many, like...
And then, like, the Metal Garurumon, have it attack, sword in mouth.
Yes. Or just using its wings as swords in general.
The idea of Imperial Dramon Paladin mode having a dragon mode.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like, there's just, like, so many cool things you could do with that. And, like, I mean, should we go into what we were talking about earlier with our theory about what, the meaning of, raising characters was on the Digimon official tweet of the VBBE announcement?
We can, if you want to.
I would like to. Okay, so, if you guys aren't aware, when the Vital Brace BE teaser dropped, the wording on the Digimon official Twitter said that it would be a means of raising characters and not Digimon. So this has me and Xana theorizing that since we haven't really had any updates whatsoever to the Vital Bracelet Characters Lab, that it might be planned for them to just straight up combine the two into a singular unit. And thus release a Vital Brace that can utilize both memory card types without actually, like, not being compatible with one. So, like...
Yeah, like, you just own one brace, and then they can just release DIM for whatever, and they'll all just work on the one brace.
Exactly. And so, this is a bit of a teaser for what Episode 3 is going to actually be about, but with that being the case, it kind of ties into how Digimon has kind of always been a nebulous term ever since its inception because of the existence of both Witch Elni and Nanimon. So Nanimon, if you aren't aware, is actually a reference character. It debuted on the version 4 as the Resident Trashmon. Wait, was it version 4 or version 3?
Four? I'm gonna say it's 4.
I think
it's
4.
3.
Yeah, because version 3 was Sukamon, right?
3 was Sukamon, and
2 was Vegemon. And then 5 was Raramon. So yeah, it had to be 4.
Yep, version 4.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from Tamagotchi originally. So, it is originally from Tamagotchi, and basically, what that means is that in order for it to have gone from Tamagotchi to Digimon, a Tamagotchi and Digimon's basic structure have to essentially be the same thing. A Tamagotchi must also be composed of a series of 1s and 0s. In the same vein, characters from the Magical Witches series, which eventually got completely recanonized as a part of Digimon, again, have to have been, and have explicitly been stated to have been, Digimon. They are Digimon.
Literally, they're
just straight up Digimon now. They have canonically been established to all be Digimon. So if that's the case, everything in Magical Witches was a Digimon the entire time, and Tamagotchi have the same basic structure as Digimon, would that not mean that Tamagotchi, as a whole, are all Digimon? They might not be as combative as Digimon are, but that doesn't change that they're digital life forms, at least. If you want to, be specific about the nomenclature.
Yeah.
It would still mean that the Tamagotchi essentially have, to some degree, their own quote-unquote digital world. Except Tamagotchi's got so many crossovers that it's got a ton of different worlds. A ton of different worlds, all based in the system of Tamagotchi, which are all composed of the same binary data that makes them basically interchangeable with Digimon.
So, to really kind of tie it together, in a roundabout way, practically every Bandai created digital pet is just a Digimon?
Yep.
Straight up.
Straight up.
So, our favorite crossovers that they've been doing, I don't know, the Angels in Evangelion, Jujutsu Kaisen,
and to wrap
Woody
things
from
back
Toy
around,
Story,
with the Vital Brace expanding to basically be a full-on, with their attempt to turn the Vital Bracelet. Yeah, Half Draggy, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Eevee is a Digimon. But yeah, so, expanding on that, the same holds true for the Vital Bracelet. Metabee is Digimon.
Yeah. Eevee is now a Digimon. Checkmate, Pokemon fans. You played yourself.
Toy Story, they're all just Digimon. They thought they were toys, but in reality, they were Tamas. And to expand on that more, this means that Kamen Rider are Digimon. Ultraman is a Digimon. Mothra is a Digimon! I mean, that was already a thing. Just look up Flymon.
Yeah, true.
Kingdom Hearts is Digimon!
Oh yeah, I forget. I keep forgetting it's gonna be Kingdom Hearts 1.
But to really, when you think about it, all of these things are Digimon. Jurassic World, they're just Digimon. It's all just Digimon.
It's all Digimon now.
Oh, Xana froze again? Hold on, let me pull him back up.
Oh. Am I stuck doing a dumb face?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
But yeah, all things are Digimon. I have to ask, just because I know this will be the question. This we can start the question to end all questions for Digimon fans until the end of time.
Oh boy.
Has there been a Dragon Ball Tamagotchi crossover yet?
Oh man, not that I know of.
Because I know at the very least that Bandai Namco are the ones who make the Dragon Ball video games, right?
Yeah, well, Bandai Namco has the video game and toy rights. So I know that they have there's a slime Tamagotchi. Yeah. So we got that going for us, but I don't think there was ever a Dragon Ball one yet, surprisingly.
Okay, so according to Digital World Order, there is not one yet. So thank you for that information. But if we ever get a Dragon Ball crossover Tamagotchi, what Digimon are stronger than Goku?
Can Goku beat blank is going to be the new go-to for any Digimon. Can Goku beat X Digimon are...
it is going to be a question of, can Omegamon Alter S beat Goku?
Definitely.
We do have Gokumon tracks, you're right.
Gokumon? Do we?
Yeah, the one that's based off Sun Wukong. Just like Goku is.
Oh, yeah. What the hell's his name again?
Gokumon.
No. Is his name really Gokumon?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm gonna guess he's like a monkey or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fucking... This design goes extremely hard.
Yeah.
When did he first show up?
Yeah. Like, Demon Slayer is just Digimon. There's just so many. Technically speaking, we actually have, like, more solid confirmation on this front. Yeah, a lot of things are based off Sun Wukong, but, we have more confirmation on this front than we do for the Tamagotchis, but, Gundam are Digimon.
Yeah.
Because there's an old Gundam LCD virtual pet that uses the prong system that's the same exact as the digital monster, so you could fight it with a digital monster.
Oh my God.
So those were literally Digimon. And again, on the subject of things that were literally Digimon, the Power Rangers. The old Power Rangers, like, LCD V-Pet Megazord toys used the same system to fight.
Wait, there's a Power Ranger V-Pet?
There was like a Saban official Power Rangers virtual pet that looked like the shell of it looked like a Megazord.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. They use the same Digimon base coding.
It uses the same communication coding as the Digimon.
I think someone mentioned it earlier, but, like, that makes me wonder, is that, like, since it's using, like, the base coding, wouldn't that just be, like, because Digimon, the way we see them, the way they look like in our Digivices and our V-Pets, is just based on, like, because, like, that's just how the hackers made them look like.
Yeah.
When you use their base coding on a different device, like, that's just them being that thing. That's just them, like, being visualized to look like that.
Yeah. Half Draggy. It's pronounced Pac-Mon. Thank you. We were literally talking about that earlier.
We were.
Pac-Mon. But yeah, so one of the things that we don't really have clearly established just yet is how the Digimon visualization programs exactly function. Because there are kind of two ways that it could work. It could be the case that, either the program basically finds a new Digimon and it basically just spontaneously constructs a new texture for it, and then when we see the new texture, we just immediately think, when you see the new texture, we're like, oh, that's a new Digimon, and so they add it to the reference book or something. Or it's the case that when they find a new Digimon, they have to design a new texture that suits its behavior. And until that point, that Digimon basically comes up almost like a missing no in Pokemon games. In the case that it is a more missing no-like scenario, then it's entirely plausible that all of these virtual pets are literally just they shoved a digital monster into a different casing and created different sprites. So that's another thing we don't really know. I'm going to call you Cypher because that sounds cooler than just calling you Bill. But yeah, we don't really know whether the Digimon's name or design would come first. But we did have a little bit of a theory that it would make R2-D2 a Digimon. We were actually thinking about how we might end up getting Star Wars Dims at some point, since Bandai has a working relationship with Disney, and now that they were going combining all the character stuff. Yeah, Sora's a Digimon. But yeah, because
we were talking about that since
if the designs are essentially applied by the people who are observing their behaviors, then the possibility exists that for things like the Digimon design contests, the winners who we never actually saw the Digimon that came from their winning designs haven't actually been seen. They haven't actually found a Digimon that matches up with that design concept yet. So the reason we've never seen Technodramon is because they've never seen Technodramon. It's really interesting to think about. There's so much that this opens up. Yeah, it is mind-blowing. It is definitely mind-blowing how crazy this shit, how deep these rabbit holes go. And yeah, one of the things that are the next episode, or one of the next episodes that we're going to cover is, like we mentioned earlier, going to be kind of, the best term I can use is mapping the digital worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only Digitominons. Yeah, basically. But the basic one of the upcoming episodes is going to be on kind of mapping the digital worlds, not only in kind of giving a visual, a somewhat basic rundown of the areas within the digital world as we know it, but also talking about the connections between Iliad, Witch Elny, and we were talking about, and we were just talking about, how basically every single Tamagotchi is its own digital world.
Yeah.
In theory. Or how, and another thing, Ultraman is owned by Sugibara, or however the hell you pronounce their name. I'm terrible at names.
Subaraya, I think.
Subaraya, that's what it is. They own Ultraman. Ultraman's on Dims. Dims come from digital worlds. Where's my Gridman Dim?
Oh my god, yeah,
where's the Gridman? Give us the Gridman!
We're still getting Kamen Rider Dim. I think they might have just stopped with the Ultraman Dim for some reason. I guess they weren't selling as well. Maybe.
I mean, that is something that they probably would have to pay more for to continuously release them.
I don't know. I want to say, I don't know. It's possible because I know Bandai owns the toy rights for Kamen Rider. Well, they do. They own the toy rights for Kamen Rider, Sentai, and also Ultraman.
Yeah, but they own basically everything for Kamen Rider. It's another Toei deal where it's they basically own everything but the actual show.
True. Right? Yeah. So it could be that. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but honestly, the Kamen Rider Dims are selling fairly well, but the Ultraman Dims are not selling very stellar. They're both not selling nearly as well as the Digimon stuff is.
Which is why we think that the VBBE is going to be kind of recombining. So it's going to let you run Digimon and Kamen Rider. I'm very excited to run Digimon and Kamen Rider, which is why the next... Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, a Godzilla Dim would actually be really cool. But what we were talking about is how our next episode is actually going to be on why Digimon are the basis of both Kamen Rider X8 and Kamen Rider 01.
Yeah.
And like,
but yeah. So
yeah,
don't be surprised if, at least with the upcoming American or like Western Vital Brace release, we might be getting dims from different things. It's possible, since they're calling it the Vital Hero and not
it
Vital
could
Brace.
be that like the BE opening up for more characters. That the Vital Hero name was chosen because, see, I've heard that, but like there's not really a reason to put Bluetooth on the Vital Brace if you think about it. I think it's going to be Battle Evolution.
Yeah, the VBBE is going to be a character thing, right? Well, apparently it's going to be for like. Apparently, I'm hearing it might be for both. Like, it's going to be mostly. It's going to be celebrating Digimon's 25th anniversary, but it's still going to be compatible with the other character stuff that's currently out now. I don't know if they're going to continue with anything after what they're doing right now, though.
I hope we at least get a Revice set.
Oh my god, I do hope we do get. I want Godzilla Dim so bad. It's not even
Godzilla
funny.
Dims would be awesome.
Oh, the VB Twitter omitted the 25th logo.
Interesting.
I didn't see that. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah. Bond Energy could be interesting too. Yeah, Battle Evolution is what I think it's gonna be.
Ball enlargement.
Yeah.
Bond Energy. Ooh. Yeah, It could be anything. I mean, we have to wait until next week, which is like killing me. It's like the next Wednesday is when we're gonna find out when.
Yeah.
I just want to know now.
I want to know now.
It's all this waiting shit, man.
Oh god. Xana.
What?
I know where the Zubamon Dim is.
What the what?
It's in the bees packaging.
What?
It's gonna be the pack-in dim for the BE.
Oh, what? The Espimon Dim?
No, the Espimon Dim is gonna be like the separate one, and the Zubamon Dim is gonna be the BE package.
Oh god.
They're gonna. Bandai Japan's gonna pull a fucking wolf howl on us.
Oh my god. I wouldn't even be mad, really.
I mean,
like,
we're definitely getting it, so there's no reason to be mad.
You know, they're like, hey, you want it? Buy this new brace for it. Show us how much you want it.
Yeah, and we're just like, you fool. I was gonna buy the brace anyway. Yeah. I do actually want to know about, I want to know more about the Legend Arms showing up on DIMS so badly, because, I need to know as soon as possible if, Zubamon's gonna be on the Ludomon DIM. Because if it's not, as much as I love Ludomon's design and, line, I'm a bigger fan of Zubamon, so if me and my friend have to go splits again, it'll probably be me taking Zubamon and her taking Ludomon.
Oh yeah.
That's basically how every DIM release has gone for me. I don't buy a DIM set. I buy half a DIM set. Ooh, yeah, I saw that, Trax. You're right. So, just checking, if everyone here is up to date on Ghost Game.
I did not see the face stealing episode.
Okay. In that case, it's not too big a spoiler, but essentially, we got what was referred to in series as an evolution failure.
Interesting.
Yeah, watch it come back.
Also, Digital Order me and watch it and come back. I should. I'll probably watch it after this. But Digital World Order did mention something that me and Blue also mentioned, is that Bluetooth would make no sense because all it would do is just kill the already pretty bad battery life.
Yeah, and the DIM cards are an infinitely better way of handling multiple rosters than it would be to make something that was like purely Bluetooth based, because like if we had to buy digital rosters, it'd basically just be microtransactions, and there's nothing stopping Bandai from going back to Gacha for that.
Yeah. Also, like the fact that like NFC just works so well, like
it works perfectly for what they're trying to do. There's no reason to switch it out.
Yeah, like there's only like thankfully like everything that we need to transfer like was within the limits of like NFC like transfer rates currently. So like there would be really no upside to adding Bluetooth, like at all. I can't think of anything that it would really add as far as like the gameplay.
Tracks, I don't think they're going to require a new band for the new PvP. Just because the new PvP is supposed to be...
Oh my god. Would it be beyond bandit to say if you want PvP battles, buy this new device? Oh my god, it's possible. If it did have Bluetooth and that's what they wanted to add it for, it's possible.
Yeah. But I don't think the people working on the Vital Brace are that dumb. Bandai as a whole, maybe, but the Digilab, I have faith in. I have faith in the Digilab. They've only fucked up once in recent memory, and that was the Pendulum 20th. Also, I just realized I've been walking away from my microphone this entire time.
Oh my god.
So I apologize for the terrible sound quality.
It's funny you mentioned like I'm gonna be pacing around, and then you're just like slowly walking back this whole time.
Yeah. No, I haven't been pacing around the whole time. But I did like stand up for a second, just stretch, and then just started walking. Because I'm just so used to using my headset microphone instead of my actual streaming one. It's been so long. But yeah.
Vital Brace. Vital Brace stuff.
Um,
Remember when we thought it was going to be called the Vital Breath?
Yeah.
How stupid were we? Really me. That was me.
Cypher, that is terrifying. Do you realize how much stuff it would pick up?
Oh my god. That would be terrifying. Because, like, everyone, like, practically everyone leaves Bluetooth on by default now, especially if you own a smartwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know, Apple
or, like,
users...
AirPods, even.
Yeah,
any
or even,
any kind of wireless headset is using Bluetooth.
Yeah, and then you have, like, the Apple users who, like, airdrop random shit to each other all the time, so it's like...
Mm-hmm. Your Digimon is just always going off 24/7. Yeah. Also, the Vital Bracelet, is kind of equally as messed up as the Accelerator for a number of reasons. The first is, not only do Digimon have moods, but since their current state is dependent on your incoming vital data, that means if you have anxiety, so does your Digimon.
Oh yeah, it's true. And also, like, you know, the Digimon on the Vital Brace, not to alarm anyone, are functionally parasites.
I mean, technically they're not parasites. They're not actually eating your vitals, they're eating the data that they receive from your vitals. It doesn't actually harm you. Symbiotic would be the better term.
They're functionally symbiotic then, which is a little freaky, in a way, you know?
Bit. But, I mean, at the same time, we have a system that At the same time, we have a system that not only lets you store them in an application outside the band, but also allows you to directly delete them from within the storage capsules. Sentient creatures. Click the button and they're gone.
Sentience. It's just still crazy to me. I don't know. It's just like I absolutely love what they've been doing with the Battle Brace.
Yeah. Yeah, half tracking. That's what we were thinking. Like, that's what we were thinking that the raids were. It's literally like the reason that we have the vital braces now is because something happened with the digital world that basically was like so messed up that they need to put everyone.
And we mentioned, like, just like I said, like there's like the essential like deaths.
The deaths kind of feel of like, attention tamers. There is a new raid battle involving this incredibly powerful evil Digimon that likes to mess with systems. Please get rid of it as soon as possible.
Anyone need a tall one yet?
Yeah. So, Digital World Order. That's the fun part about this. We've heard so much stuff about Yggdrasil messing things up in the digital world. We've heard so many things about Yggdrasil over the course of it popping up in different anime and video games, over the course of it, the whole Xanadu saga, where it was running out of room, so it tried to delete some shit, but then that wasn't enough, so it decided to fragment its hard drive, and then the end of the Digimon X series, where it decided to defrag its hard drive. But the thing is, Yggdrasil is a host computer for the digital world, but only one digital world. Iggy is only operating one digital world. For example, Iliad has an entirely different one. Yeah, that was what I initially thought, but apparently the digital world Iliad is run by an entirely different host computer. Which implies that technically... Yeah, I know what you mean. Literally the world tree, Yggdrasil, like from Norse mythology.
Yeah.
But since the digital world Iliad is an entirely separate host computer, Homer, it implies that not only does that imply that each digital world is essentially on its own host computer, but also the fact that the digital world itself is essentially just a collection of virtual spaces within the net ocean implies that, to a degree, any collection of virtual spaces is a digital world unto itself.
I'm gonna need that tall. I'm gonna need that tall one now.
Yeah. So, like, there's probably a different host computer for Witch Oni. There's probably a different host computer. Yeah. That's actually another thing we were going to talk about is the origins of Yggdrasil as a system.
Yeah. Which we had to, I wouldn't say scrap. We had to well, now you read. I don't write these. I don't write these scripts. This is all Blue. Azu had to go back and redo that whole shit after we read that Ravel's blog post just completely
Actually,
shattered.
that episode didn't actually get hit too badly.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no, what Ravel's thing did, it hit the one on Frontier. And O2.
Oh.
And it hit it so badly that one is not only not going to be touched on anytime soon, it is going to be some kind of, like, subscriber milestone special. Because it is so convoluted, so messy, and so broken that I legitimately don't think I can cover that on my own, and I feel like I need, like, the experts of both Frontier and O2 in the fucking call in order to have even a chance of unpacking it properly. So, I gotta get to, like, at least 500 subscribers before I go up to Karn and be like, "Excuse me, sir, could I please have some help analyzing 02 and Frontier?"
Please,
But yeah.
spread the word, folks.
Yeah, I just like that one, like, because that one's a mess unto itself. But you know what? Let me take a look at this. So we've been live for like 2 hours now, right?
Oh, has it been 2 hours?
It's been 2 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I can kind of keep going. Should we do a double up episode?
Oh, you wanna get into?
Because, like, we've got it ready.
I mean, let's ask the folks still in chat.
Yeah, chat.
See more?
Would you like an encore? Oh shit! It's 1 a.m. where you are.
Jeez.
Jesus.
It is. I did realize we're for anyone that is watching this, not in our time zone at least. This is a danger zone for some people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Like and subscribe now for bonus content.
Like the video, or we're canceling everything. The video, or we'll break a vital brace live on stream.
Yeah.
Just whack it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Just in case, I feel like let's just call it.
Let's call it here.
We'll call it here, because I know some of our internet, like, there's a couple people in chat that are international, and it is like 12 to like 2 o'clock for them. I don't want to keep it.
You're right. Yeah.
So we'll call it here for now. But I do think this was a really good episode, especially like now that we've gotten like a lot of baseline stuff done. Now
we've got the baseline stuff we needed. Now, next time, if you thought this destroyed your understanding of this franchise, just you wait.
Yeah. And the first 2 episodes, but definitely I think this episode probably more so than any of the other ones, or it's probably going to be referenced multiple times, so the VOD will always, of course, stay up, so you want to make sure you're watching the VODs, or mentioning the VODs to other people who are going to plan on watching all these in order.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're gonna be referencing this one quite a bit, and also Ravel's blog. Make sure you go back and read that as well.
Go read Ravel's blog, because it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like absolutely nuts.
Yeah. I'm glad you all enjoyed it, though. I was kind of worried about that. The next time we do one of these, we're gonna try and do them every Tuesday if we can, right? Or every other Tuesday?
Yeah, we're definitely. Yeah, we're gonna try, like, right now it's like going to be either every other Tuesday or like a Tuesday in the month.
Yeah.
It depends on whether or not like I am dead.
Yeah.
Because sadly, my day job is just not in it right now.
Yeah.
But Tuesdays are the day.
Yeah. Tuesdays
and
are
the
the day.
frequency of it.
We will
The
try and make
frequency of
it
it
so
is.
that I give more warning when they happen.
Yes.
This one, I forgot to actually double check the warning because I realized after reworking like when we were doing each script that this was a massive hole in the plotline. So I literally made this script, I want to say it was 4 hours ago now, that I actually wrote the damn thing.
Oh my god.
It was 3 p.m. when I started and it was 5 p.m. when I finished.
Yeah, I know there's quite a few people in here still. I have to go, sadly.
Yeah.
But if you want to, Blue, you can definitely stay on and entertain the people.
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, that actually sounds like a pretty good idea. I will probably take a quick break just to like refill my water bottle, but if you guys are down for it, after Xana hops off, I can just do I know what you mean, Trax. I have so many like backlog scripts that I've been working on. But yeah, after Xana hops off, I can if you guys want, I can totally do some Q&As. Yeah, like you said, Cypher. I don't have a thing set up so that we could actually like do like a voice-based one, but if you guys drop questions in the chat, I can answer them. All right, cool. So yes, Xana, you are free from your prison.
I am gonna go. Thank you guys so much for checking this out, and make sure you subscribe to Azure, and also make sure that you are liking the video, liking the stream, and also sharing it once it's done. So yeah, I'm gonna hop off though. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Azure. This is always fun. And
Thank you for coming.
No problem. Bye, everyone.
Later. Okay, I am now the only one here, so give me 1 second. I'm gonna set up set this up and okay. Alright, there we go. So you just fix this a bit more. Sorry, my OBS isn't the best yet, but okay, there we go. Yeah, my skill at OBS is not really that high. But, right, so I will be right back, and then I'm just gonna fill up my water bottle, and then once I am done with that, we can get on to Q&A. So feel free to flood the chat with questions immediately. Oh yeah. Yeah, thank you. My little sprite model here is a PNG tuber, which basically I just have it set up to change the frame depending on whether or not I'm talking, as well as to just jump up. Ooh, Fairy Tale Digital Worlds. That's a good one. There isn't really a specific explanation for major differences between digital worlds, like for example, there isn't really like an established difference of what are the differences between Iliad and the digital world we know, which, you know what, for clarification purposes, we're going to refer to the digital world as we know it as Midgard, just because that way we can have something to actually call it in like relation to things like Iliad and Witch Elmy. But as for Fairy Tale Digimon, I don't know, because there are a lot of Digimon based on fairy tales, but they aren't explicitly stated to be from a different digital world. And the majority of Digimon has focused on Midgard, so it would be safe to assume, I'd say, that unless they're explicitly stated to be operating in Iliad, Witch Elmy, or a new digital world, that they can be presumed to be from Midgard. And that is the last question I will answer before I go get water, because my throat is killing me. So I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Okay. Okay, so, Digital World Lordle, I'll cover yours first, since you mentioned you have work tomorrow. So, canon is a bit weird in Digimon. The way I do it is we have... Oh. You guys should go to sleep if it's that late for you. So, the, canon for Digimon is everything kind of comes from the virtual pets. So, like, our profiles for different Digimon, our, everything that's been standardized to any degree is part of the general VPET lore, and the biggest aspect of the VPET lore is by far the Digimon Encyclopedia on the official website, and or like what we used to call the reference book. Everything else, every anime, every game, etc., has been kind of has put its own spin on things, and then after those entries kind of wrap themselves up, the aspects of them that were unique to the concept, parts of them get kind of kind of subsumed back in to the VPETs. So, like, for example, in 02, armor evolutions weren't on the VPETs, but afterwards, the VPETs that were incorporated, like, aspects of, like, things like armor evolution were incorporated back into the VPETs and appeared on later ones, and that's why we have things like, Shadramon, or, Flamedramon, or Magnetramon, or Rapidmon Gold. All those armor evolutions are now on the Vital Bracelet. So, canon, as far as these streams will be concerned, are specifically in the context of the virtual pets, which have always had the origin story of being binary data from a virus that gains sentience somehow, and continues on from there. Yeah, that is how canon works for this, at least. Cypher. Okay, so it's not so much the specific equipment used to observe them as it is the data on the system that they're in. So, let's put it this way. Let's say you've got... So, like, here's a recent example. I'm actually going to pull up on my phone the Vital Bracelet Lab and go into the Digidex for this, so I actually say it right and don't just paraphrase it. But, so, Pulsemon's official profile says that it is a Digimon whose Digivolution was influenced by EKG waveform data stored in hospitals and gyms. And then, the first one I got was actually Runnermon, which is a beast Digimon that digivolved from treadmill data. And so basically, what actually influences what a Digimon becomes is the actual Digimon, like, the actual data that's surrounding it. So when a Digimon, like, when a Digimon such as, like, let's say, what's a good one I can use for this? Infinite Tide, basically every Digimon's evolution path is influenced by the data of the computer it's on. So if you have a lot of so like a Digimon that was discovered on a computer that was researching marine biology would be more likely to evolve into an aquatic Digimon because that's the data it had access to. And that influenced its behavior, thus influencing the visualization program. Or, for example, Plesiomon is a Digimon where it actually kind of has a tie to the Loch Ness Monster, if I remember correctly, because they said it was similar to, like, basically it was found on, like, a cryptid kind of research computer or something. Yeah, it says, a previously imaginary Digimon discovered within the computer of a British cryptozoology research institute. So, it was one that was found inside of basically a computer that had done a bunch of research on the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah. Alright, see ya, Digital World. Have a nice night. I hope you have a good sleep. And Trax, so it's not confirmed just yet, but my personal take on why we have so many Digimon that have such a high degree of appeal in that regard is because they're getting their data from the internet, And 90% of the internet is not safe for work. But yeah, it very much depends, like, a Digimon's evolution and behavior depend on the data of their environment. And, yeah, that's what I was talking about. So, let me scroll back up. Yeah, basically, scrolling back up now. A Digimon VR game where you have the VB2 on your hand and need it to use your partner to digivolve. I don't know about being specifically based on having the band, like the type of VB to interact with the game, but the great thing about Digimon is that there's literally, simply because of the premise, there's no limit to how it would actually work. In terms of how do you, like any kind of game can work for Digimon, any kind of digital medium can work for Digimon, because they're what they say on the tin. A digital monster is a monster that's digital. So they don't need a larger story in order to work, and that means you can tell basically any story with them. Oh yeah, a Digimon VR game would be so cool. How much data would be required to make a Botamon? I can actually tell you that right now, hold on. So, on a lot of the virtual pets, Digimon's weight is weighed in grams. Or, not grams, it's weighed in gigabytes, but a lot of people mistake it for grams. And so basically, the gigabyte data, or I personally headcanon as gigabit data, because there's no way that there's no way that a Digimon is 5 gigabytes and fits on that tiny keychain from the 90s. But officially, Botamon has a minimum quote-unquote weight value of 5 Gs. So, theoretically, 5 gigabytes is actually probably close to 5 gigabits. So, Examon. It was impossible to render it until our digital tools got more powerful. What that means is essentially the amount of data that Examon consists of is so massive that prior to the 10th anniversary, the Digimon Capture did not have a wide enough scope to even process its existence. But to answer your question, we already have found even larger Digimon in data size. Grace Novamon is the size of a galaxy in terms of digital space. It is absolutely massive even compared to Examon, and in the art books where they have a kind of lineup of how big Digimon are in terms of data size compared to each other, Examon barely reaches Grace Novamon's knee. So, yeah, Digimon will get infinitely bigger, especially when you consider that when Digimon were initially discovered, computer size was like, a 2 gigabyte flash drive was a big deal. Like, I've got a 2 gigabyte flash drive right here. It's completely useless right now, because 2 gigs is nothing. But that was a big deal when Digimon were first discovered. So, like, as our computers get more and more advanced and more capable, we're going to see even bigger Digimon we're going to see even more complex renders of Digimon, and that's how we're going to get things like the amplified, that's how we're going to get things like the amplified, like the reboot stuff, like how in Colon, Omegamon had completely new attacks. All of that stuff comes from Digimon being able to expand themselves and their capabilities because the systems they are being housed on are not as limiting in terms of their own capabilities. Remember, Digimon will adapt to a system. In order to ensure that they do not crash the system they are on, they will limit their output. Who is my Digimon partner? Partners. It's Twin Pulsemons. That their lines are Pulse, then Runnermon, then Divemon, and then Shivamon, and Bulkmon, then Tempomon, and then Shroudmon. And the reason being is that before I ever had a Digimon virtual pet, before I ever played Digimon Hacker's Memory, which was my first Digimon game ever, first official Digimon thing, like one of the first official Digimon things I ever owned. Back when the only thing I ever had was like my old detector that I got as a kid, and I hadn't seen it in forever. I stumbled across an unofficial Digimon, basically like an emulator of the original virtual pets by the name of Digimon Unlimited. I don't think it still works now. I might do that. I might add a little like lab assistant for myself, but it was called Digimon Unlimited, and the first Digimon I successfully raised was a Terriermon that became a Tortamon, and then I found out that version couldn't properly connect to the internet anymore, so I had to get a second one. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. I like the idea of a lab assistant that's just running around. Yeah, I don't know what happened to it, man. But Wash and I actually met through DU, and so if you guys are aware of it, Digimon Unlimited. The way that online, the online system, kind of got started was that I had made a relatively small fan server, a Discord server, for Digimon Unlimited. Not at its peak. I got into it way after its peak. But, we made a fan Discord to try and, gather up, the last remaining scraps of the English-speaking community. And when the game basically started to become unplayable, was around the same time I got my first V-Pet. Wash was there for all of that, basically. And it was when... Yeah, and basically, I got my, my first official virtual pet. And I was, thrilled, and, I loved it, but we couldn't fight each other anymore. And so that's what got me to look into... Yeah, I kept it on life support. That's what got me to look into the possibility of finding a way to connect the Digimon over the internet, which is how I met Blade Saber. And, oh wow! I'm not sure if... I don't know if I... That name looks familiar, I'm not sure though. But I was going by Blue Dragon 1220 by that time, I'm sure. But the way online got started was I got my first official virtual pet. I got mad that I couldn't connect to my friends who were playing DU anymore. And so I actually started looking into the specifics of, like, if anyone knew how they connected, because, like, the prongs were right there at the top. There had to be a way to basically, like, Game Boy link cable that shit or something. And that's how I found Blade Saber's Digimon Electronics Communication Project, which I worked with her to do some research on the 20th pets, and she helped me with revamping the most... I say she helped me, she basically did all... Yeah. Yeah. I helped her with doing research on the data for the Pendulum and the Pendulum 20th, and she made some modifications to the original DMCOM Arduino firmware, so that I basically wrote up a guide on how to do that, use that for basically online battles, and then that spiraled into what is now known as online, which was amazing to watch happen, and I'm so glad I was a part of it. Also, at that time, I was going by Blue Dragon 1220, which is why you will not see anything on online that mentions Azure-AC, because that is the name I came up with when I wanted to be a VTuber. But to finish off my rambling about DU, so after I got the second version of DU that had the more customized rosters instead of just kind of having when I got the version of DU that when you went to check what Digimon you had, it showed like a colored in version of the sprite instead of the official art. I got a Vmon on that one, and I raised that all the way to a Black War Greymon. And then I jogressed with someone online to get Omegamon Zwart. And so I had kind of headcanoned at that point that the Terriermon I had initially raised had become a part of that Omegamon Zwart. I kept that thing alive almost forever. Wash can tell you, I had I definitely passed, I want to say I was 3 months past 99 years when it finally kicked the bucket. But that was on the same phone that I initially got the VB Lab on. And so, there was one phone transfer, but when I transferred my phone, I still kept DU on it. So I always had a kind of headcanon that the Pulsemon that I had in the app and the Pulsemon that I initially hatched on my Vital Bracelet had incorporated the data from that Terriermon and that Vmon into themselves. And so my partner Digimon are that Shivamon and that Shroudmon. The best VPET roster by far is the Vital Bracelet because of the sheer variety that are available, and the fact that once it eventually reaches the end of its lifespan and it's no longer a danger to Bandai's bottom line, the Digimon modding community is going to go absolutely insane, bringing every single monster possible, bringing out every single fake mon is going to become as viable as every single official Digimon. It is going to be the most complicated and convoluted system, and it's going to be beautiful. So Vital Brace has the best roster by far. Top 5 Doggymons I would add to the VB. First off, Doggymon. Second, I would say add let's see, like, Digimon that are dogs. To be honest, we've actually gotten, like, most, Labramon line. The Labramon line would be good. Let's see, what else? It's another dog Digimon. Zubi Eagermon is kind of dog-like. The black variants of Terriermon, of the Terriermon line, and Raijiludomon. So at least one of those is going to show up soon. I think Cerberusmon is already on the VB in some capacity, though. How did I forget Plotmon? Let me scroll up again real quick. Yeah, so I am caught up. But yeah, joking aside, I just really want to see the Legend Arms Dims. To be honest, as I kind of stated already, I've got my partners. So I don't really have any other Dims that I'm particularly looking out for beyond the Legend Arms. But I basically am the kind of person where if I see a Mon that I really like, I'm gonna buy the Dim anyway. Yeah, I know what you mean. So, what I do is I have an old Nintendo DS, like, travel case. The ones where it's got, like, a little thing where you can, like, slot in all of your DS cartridges. It's got like a room for 8 of them. And so I've been using that to hold my Dims alongside a means of holding, like, wires to, like, charge my VB and the system I use to actually, like, back up my Dims and all that kind of shit. I would like to look into a custom Dim for myself, but it would be very difficult. Okay. If I could give any Digimon a more complete kind of evolution system. So I'm kind of a weirdo because I'm not really big on lines for Digimon. I like when there's, like, a through line where you can clearly see, like, oh, this Digimon's kind of connected to this one. But I'm not really big on, like, Digimon following a line for their evolutions. I've always been a fan of how the original Digital Monster series had, like, such random evolutions, because it really does make it feel like the deciding factor in what they become is you, rather than the kind of data that the Digimon was initially discovered in. And so, because of that, I have a tendency to go with lines that are more randomized, like Tiger to Sharkman to Insect, or Ape to Penguin to Human Demon thing, because I just like it that way. But that said, I think it's a fucking travesty that Spatamon was the original Legend Arms, and it is only a rookie level, and it has not gotten any kind of higher level form. Which, for anything else, I'd be kind of fine with a Digimon just existing on its own. But I feel like the Legend Arms having a line is at least somewhat justified, or at least a canon mega. Just because, like, I feel like it's such a useful ability that if they lose it during their evolution, they should at least be able to get it back. Yeah, exactly. It did it in a really interesting way that actually feels almost more pendulum than Digital Monster, because it has the consistent theme of exercise, and it has that kind of run through where every single one of them you can kind of feel like, yeah, I can see how this becomes this. But they're all so different in the approaches they take to the idea of exercise as a theme that they all feel unique from each other, and by the time you reach the megas, they're all so visually distinct, but they all still feel like they could come from Pulsemon. It was really well done. Apologies if my voice starts to go a bit weird. I'm just clearing off my desk because I don't... Oh, now I'm able to hear that. I guess it was coming through on my other computer or something? I can hear my backup. I can hear my background music now. So yeah, yeah, I love the Digital Monster style of evolutions. Also, I just love the VB, because, like, it really does feel like an update of the Digital Monster and Pendulum era in spirit, even though it's completely different in terms of, like, its actual system. And it's something I absolutely want to see more. Like, I desperately hope that, I think the only way that VB could be better would be if Bandai, like, gave us some way to kind of just, like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Make good on the, like, I wish there was, like, some way that, like, because it has that kind of, like, classic era feel to it that makes it, it has that kind of classic era feel to it that makes it feel like it should have that kind of more hacker kind of internet feel. And, like, it's kind of present in the kind of, like, our war game aesthetic that's in the VB Lab app. But it feels like there should be some, like, aspect of, like, customization or modification that you can do to make it feel more complete on that front. And I mean, it's there to a degree in that, like, we can buy plugins and shit for use in, like, raids and PvP to make our Digimon stronger against what we're facing. A Digimon group. Okay. That's a difficult one. Let's see. Okay. I would go with... Ooh, yeah, having a proper Digifarm in the VB Lab app would be so much better than having the storage capsules. Like, even if instead of, like, they replace storage capsules with, like, a memory gauge and, like, doing well in raids increases your memory gauge or something. And so that controls how many Digimon you can have. Like, each Digimon costs a memory or something. But, for a Digimon group, I'd probably go with something less along the lines of a standard Olympus 12 Royal Knights style, and go with something a bit more Crack Team-esque, or kind of like how... So, the Fun Beamon line, specifically Waspmon and Cannon Beamon. Cannon Beamon has been shown to have a variant in some versions, where basically it not only are all of like those hexagonal containers on its back actually large enough to carry other Digimon in some settings, but it also has its stinger replaced with a full-on fucking catapult for launching other Digimon. And so, if I made a new Digimon group, I would want to theme it around the idea of basically one particularly large kind of vehicle Digimon that serves as kind of almost like a file transfer protocol system, where it actually is the system, it actually allows movement of the group, not only across the digital world, but even to other ones. And then the rest of the group is like some kind of like elite kind of like system that like the entire purpose is to kind of like, you know those characters that like fight only to get stronger, and so they're constantly seeking out stronger opponents? Something like that, where the goal is to kind of collect as much data as they can in order to evolve into an even greater state. And like maybe instead of being like consisting of like one line of varying levels or a bunch of mega level Digimon, it would instead be kind of like the Legend Arms, in that you have like one Digimon that's like this kind of like vehicle, and then you have like the rookies of like the team, and you've got like their rookie versions, then you've got their champion versions, then they've got their ultimate versions, and then finally their perfect versions, and then finally their mega versions. And then at the end they kind of like Megazord together, because I'll admit it, I am a big fan of Cross Wars. I freaking love the Cross Wars manga. It was amazing. I will die on this hill. Ooh, Data Seekers. That's a good one. Because we've got Virus Busters, so this time it'll be Data Seekers. What would I like to see from the VB2? Honestly, the biggest thing I could ask for is waterproofing. Cause... Alright, see you, Trex. Heck yeah, I hope we can actually do it at a time that you're good for, like we were this time. But yeah, later, man. Have a nice night. So, VB2. The only thing that I really want, like, the only thing that I really find wanting is, waterproofing, basically. And I'd want waterproofing just because, like, I really like swimming. Swimming is my favorite kind of exercise, so if I could swim with my Vital Brace on, that would be way better. Exactly! Waterproof so I can swim with Seedramon. And Trax, I do need to worry about time zones because I want you to be on the podcast at some point. So I always need to worry about time zones. But yeah, waterproof is one thing. And the only other thing is I think the VB could use a minigame. I'm not saying get rid of the I'm not saying to get rid of the mission system. That's good. I like that. But, like, for example, on the DMX, it had a regular training minigame, and it had an adventure mode. So those were two ways that you could actually interact with your Digimon in a way that actually, like, gave you something to do when you're sitting there doing nothing. And I think that if we had, like, a little minigame, or even if it was just as simple as, like, spamming the button in order to power up your Digimon, and then if it, like, destroys a little wall thing, it'll boost your current vital points, that would at least give you something to do when you've got nothing else but to just, like, kind of just wait around. Yeah. And, like, because, like, on the one hand, we do have the app, and so, like, if you're just sitting there, you can transfer your Digimon into the app if you want to use that one specifically. I mean, that could work, but that would also mean that you had to have items actually be a thing on the bracelet itself. And instead, the way that it works is when you use an item, it either will immediately change your Digimon while on the app, like the injury heals or the what's the word I'm looking for? The vital point ups, or when you're actually sending it back to the bracelet, the items that you choose at that point are actually just kind of like switches. So, like, if you choose, like, the Evo timer reduced by 10, what it's actually going to do is when it's sent, before it sends, it's going to change the value of the Digimon's Evo timer to be 10 minutes lower than it was before. Or if you give it, like, a mood booster, it's going to set a timer for the amount of time for the mood booster, and it's going to set your Digimon's mood to that mood. It doesn't actually keep track of the item itself inside the bracelet. In fact, I was one of the people who was working on World initially. I don't really help with it much anymore because I've been focusing on both schoolwork and this. But, and also I haven't really run anything other than the Vital Bracelet for a while. Yo! Foxtail! I've seen you around, like, I think on Twitter? I think I've seen your stuff on Twitter. But, yeah. Welcome to Monspiracy. Unfortunately, you came in a bit late, so Xana's already gone because he had stuff he had to do. But, be sure to check out the VOD. This episode was a doozy. It was a big one. But, yeah, so, like, I helped work on Worlds. Not, like W0RLD, that one. Not actual Digimon World. I am not old enough to have worked on Digimon World. Digimon World came out before I was born. Yeah, it was a massive rabbit hole. Which, if you're not big on watching VODs, then, basically we covered, like, all of the virtual pets, but the basics of it you can find on Ravel's blog, the Digital World Archive, which is linked in the description. Because Ravel is the source of basically everything. Like, Ravel is the greatest researcher in Digimon history. This is a fact. Everything is Digimon, and everything goes back to Saturn. So, right, what was I saying? Oh, right, so, on the Vital Bracelet, when it comes to the item thing, the reason I brought up that I worked on World is that when the Vital Bracelet came out, one of the things that we were talking about was, how could we make something like World for the Vital Bracelet? And, like, I'm still part of a group that's kind of looking into that. We're a lot more hesitant because, as I've said many times, the difficult thing about the Vital Bracelet is that it's still making money for Bandai. With a virtual pet like the classic ones, once you buy it, Bandai's already earned all the money that they're going to get off of that virtual pet. From you, at least. And so because of that, once you own it, anything you do with it does not affect Bandai's bottom dollar. Except if you break it, in which case you have to buy another one from Bandai. So, you don't really... So, for example, if I buy a Digimon 20th, and I connect it to Worlds, like the fan-made game, then there's no real... It doesn't hurt Bandai. It can't hurt Bandai because you've already paid Bandai. With the Vital Bracelet, if you do things like create a custom dim that has a roster of official Digimon that you really like, that can technically hurt Bandai's income, because if they make a dim that has the Digimon that you like, you don't really have a reason to buy it anymore, because you've made a dim with all of the Digimon you like. So what's the point of getting the version that doesn't have all the Digimon you like? And in the same way, if you make something that basically makes it unprofitable for Bandai to keep the Vital Bracelet Lab up and running, then Bandai's going to shut down the Vital Bracelet Lab. So there's a lot more stuff you have to pay attention to in order to make sure that that anything that gets made for the Vital Bracelet can't hurt Bandai's bottom dollar. And so, because of that, we had been talking about, like, things like, what can we do in terms of creating a progression system? Because, like, in World, right now, the way that it works is you get further in the game by completing quests and building up the city. Because you can't have a normal RPG progression system when your means of combat is consistently going to change, like it does in the original Digimon World games. Your Digimon dies, and you can't deal with perfect levels once your Digimon is dead, because it's now just a baby. So, because that's the case, one of the things we're trying to figure out is, what is a way that a Vital Bracelet-based project, that in the same way that World is based on the regular virtual pets, could operate? And how can it operate in a way that not only doesn't hurt Bandai's bottom dollar, but also doesn't in any way interfere with their official connected companion systems, like the Vital Brace app. I said Vital Brace app, I don't know why. I was trying to say VB Lab, but also I was trying to say Vital Brace app. That was weird. If everything is Digimon, it goes back to the NES or the 2600. I don't know what the 2600 is, but the earliest thing we can connect Digimon to, in terms of gaming consoles, is the earliest thing we can connect it to in terms of gaming consoles is the Sega Saturn. Oh, Atari 2600. Yeah, no, it would be... The Saturn is the first time Digimon was ever on a console. But even then, the Sega Saturn video game is supposed to be a retelling of the early Tamer era, which was, like, before the release of the actual... It was before the release of the actual virtual pets. But when the Sega Saturn game actually came out, the virtual pets had already been released. So, like, the Sega Saturn game took place kind of like at least a couple years before the virtual pets actually came out. Kinda. It could have taken place at the same time, technically, but I don't know. The important thing is that, in short, Digimon probably couldn't properly operate on a... Digimon probably couldn't properly operate on a gaming console until around the same time they could condense that information to the size of a virtual pet keychain. They probably would have been able to do that a bit earlier than they could on the keychain, but the general point I'm trying to make is that it would, like, I don't think Bandai was trying to shove things into an NES. I don't think they would have naturally occurred on there, because part of what made the Digimon come into being was the tumultuous state of the network in what was described as the net ocean. That's what caused them to, like, become what they are now, as we know them. Let me see if there's any I missed. Okay, yeah, it looks like I'm caught up, actually. SD card compression. Well, I mean, technically speaking, the DIM cards are... not exactly, but their pin readout, I think is how it's said, basically matches up to a micro SD. So the current level of technology we have is something... The current level of technology we have allows for approximately 17 different Digimon types. Can be loaded into a micro SD card sized system, which is very interesting. If they made a new Digimon World game, I think that they should absolutely make it in a similar way. I think that they should absolutely make it so that rather than just having a game with a raising mechanic, it should tie into the Vital Brace somehow, so that the Digimon that you use in the game are the ones that you actually raise. Because that will make it not only so that it will both enhance the Vital Bracelet sales, and it will make the game, it will give the game an immediate audience. Armor Digimon. That's an interesting one. So, as of right now, the consensus that we've come to, as of right now, the consensus that they've come to for Armor Digimon is that they can absolutely exist as regular stages that a Digimon can evolve into. I actually really like the idea of needing an evolution. Did OBS crash? Am I not still up? Hold on. Am I still here? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay, it looks like I'm still here. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, armor stages. I like the idea of them. Okay, so it was just lagging for a second. Armor stages. I like the idea of them being item-based, like you have to have the item in order to get that evolution. But I also am not against them being able to evolve further. There's nothing that should stop a Digimon from being able to evolve further unless they've reached, like, the final stage. And even then, I like them to evolve more. But yeah, eventually, I'm going to actually do a Monspiracy that has to do with armor evolutions, because they're an interesting system. So, the reason I don't really like the idea of the VV having Bluetooth is it doesn't really need it. If the VB had Bluetooth, then like, what would, like, if a VB had Bluetooth, it would decrease the battery life, and it would make the DIM system not really make sense. Like you said, you could use it to raise a new Digimon without needing the DIMs, but at that point, why have the DIMs? And I like the DIMs. The DIMs make sense as a system because they're a way to have multiple rosters without locking those rosters behind a system that ensures that the VB is absolutely worthless the second they close the app. So I just feel like the Vital Brace doesn't need to have a Bluetooth system. And if they had gone with a Bluetooth system, the way they would have had to do it is any expansion to the roster would have to have been like a microtransaction within the app that connects to it. It just doesn't seem like it would be a good model for a virtual pet. Especially since people have tried to do that in the past, and it crashed and burned. Both in the sense that it did not do well, and in the sense that the app literally crashed. So, Beyond the Mega Level is actually really interesting. Officially speaking, there is no stage beyond the Mega Level, or Ultimate in Japanese. However, the terms Super, Ultimate, and Ultra refer to how a Digimon can have the incredibly, like, cream of the crop of that level, where the power between them and a standard Mega Level is so disparate, the gap is so wide, that they're practically in a league of their own. That is what we refer to as a Super, Ultimate, or Ultra. And the interesting thing about that is that Bandai keeps kind of going back and forth on it, because they don't want there to be a new stage. But a lot of Digimon have additional modes, or stages, or fusions, or etc. at the Mega Level, that in order for them to work in terms of, like, a video game, for example, they have to have a classification, and so that's the classification they give them. And yeah, Omegamon would be a perfect example. Another example would be something like Imperial Dramon Fighter Mode, or Paladin Mode even. Something like Crimson Mode, or how Xanadu is a fusion of the two Transcendent Spirits, which are Mega Class. Or how Chaosmon, or Ragnalordmon, or Alphamon or Ryuken. There are a lot of ones that approach that. Heck yeah, have a nice night, Cypher. Good night. But yeah, the level system in Digimon is pretty interesting. Okay, there we go. Sorry if like my screen just cut out for a second. I think I figured out what the lag was. It was that my second screen finally shut itself off, and that caused the presentation, which was still up, to pop up weird on my screen. Which I just closed now. So, yeah. Primordial Digimon. What do you mean by that, Aaron? Could you be more specific? Like, do you mean like the Warrior 10, or something older? So, technically speaking, Rapidmon Gold isn't actually the original one. I'm pretty sure that Terriermon and his line existed in the card game prior to its debut and use in 02? I'll need to double check that. Hold on. I can do that right now. I can double check that. Okay, so, it became active in the year 2000. Let me look at Rapidmon. Okay. Rapidmon Perfect became active in the year 2001. Oh wow, you're right! Rapidmon Armor was the first one. So yeah, it is very much like that. Yeah, it is very much like the original Metal Greymon in that regard, it looks like. So you're right, I was not aware of that, because I've only ever read its reference book profile where it mentions how there's a standard version of Rapidmon and that the Digigag basically made it stronger. So very primitive Digimon would be Botamon, actually. Half Draggy, I absolutely subscribe to the idea of a blue Magnamon. And I absolutely subscribe to the idea of the existence of a blue Magnamon that would be the XVmon's ultimate. However, going back to the partner question, because you reminded me about something on that front. So my 2 Pulsemons are technically reboot, or I guess reboots or resets or rebuilds. Let's go with rebuilds because they've got different systems now of my Terriermon and my Vmon. And something interesting about those two is they have the 2 golden armor evolutions. Vmon, XVmon, Jagresses with Stingmon to become Paildramon, and then Imperial Dramon. It could also... Wormmon can Jagras with... Stingmon can Jagras with XVmon. You get Dino Beamon. You get Grand Guagamon. But here's the interesting thing. If you take Wormmon and use either the Digimental of Miracles or the Digimental of Fate, you get the same result. Kongomon. With that being the case, that not only implies that a blue Magnamon would be XVmon's quote-unquote natural, perfect level, but it also implies that there is a 2 secret Jagresses between Galgamon and Stingmon that we have never seen, because those 3 form a triangle just like, I guess, like the Tamers would in that regard. Or maybe the... Because, like, we haven't seen any kind of armor connection for Lopmon in any capacity, as far as I know. Not, like, officially recognized. I'm gonna check that now. Okay, I stand corrected. It has actually been... Lopmon has armor evoed, but not in, like, an official thing, or had its own forms. It was just reusing other forms. But anyway, yeah. Going back to the primitive Digimon question. The most primitive form of Digimon is Botamon. Both in the sense that it is, like a just hatched one, and also in the sense that it is quite literally the first Digimon that was ever found was a Botamon or a Koromon. It depends on who you ask, but obviously Botamon's going to become Koromon anyway. But yeah. In terms of more primitive Digimon types, technically speaking, the Digimon of File Island, so Digital Monster, like, you mean more like prototype Digimon, or do you mean more like just like Digimon that in their coding would be a more basic one than like a standard Digimon? because, if you want Digimon that are just, Oh yeah, there was a mummified Agumon in episode 2, wasn't there? Okay, so prototype Digimon, there are technically a total of 3 or 4. The 2 most well-known are Dorumon and Ryudamon, who we will talk about in a future episode, them being prototypes and what that means, possibly. As for, in addition to those 2, though, Andromon is a prototype, and Boltmon might be a prototype as well. But, like, Andromon is officially a prototype-type Digimon. In terms of the most basic Digimon, it would be, I want to say the versions 1 to 5, but maybe the versions 1 to 4, because version 5 is kind of special. But, the basic, version 5 is kind of special, but, the most basic Digimon would be, the original digital monster Botomon evolution tree. But in terms of complexity, all of the original digital monster rosters would be about the same. The Digimon of File Island were recorded and were initially like operating prior to the existence of the Mega Level. And so as such, they have to be less complex than the Digimon that came once the Mega Level existed. Continuing off of that, the personal theory that I possess is that in a similar the creation of Mugendramon, which initially was a perfect level alongside a number of relatively powerful eventual Mega Level Digimon, Mugendramon's status as a completely artificial Digimon kind of implies, to me at least, that it would, it was designed for the purpose of essentially, surpassing the perfect level, and it did so in a terrifying way, which is the reason that Super Ultimate is not an actual stage. And the way it happened, true to its name in Japanese being Mugen, meaning infinity, is that it was so powerful that's a possibility, but you have to remember that the initial Digimon stages that we got were just as modified by hackers as the programs were developed by them. So people were messing with their Digimon in this age very regularly. In fact, the entire plot of the Sega Saturn game is that someone took their Megadramon and modified it further so that it was a fucking nightmare to deal with and a super hacking tool. But, the idea that we had was that a Mugendramon essentially was so powerful that it partially rebooted the digital world, and essentially it basically like integer overflowed and caused a kind of bug. And the way that they solved that bug was the creation of the Mega Level, which allowed all Digimon to advance further, and some Digimon that were already incredibly powerful to basically move up to the next stage. But then, to go even further, in order to ensure that essentially the Machine Dramon overflow circumstance never occurred again, and they set the cap for what it constitutes. So Perfect Level had a cap, Mugen Dramon exceeded the cap, caused a bug. They create the Mega Level to allow a higher range of power. They do not place a cap on how powerful the Mega Level stage can be. As such, it does not face the overflow problem and require a higher stage to be created. So that is the reason that we initially had. Though the idea that the power basically exceeded what could be recognized and couldn't be properly recognized until the pendulum is an interesting one. It does not really line up with our understanding of I'm sorry, I lost the yeah. It doesn't really make sense in terms of computer programming. Wait, what you talking about, Half Dragon? What do you got? To finish what I was saying, so this is actually a problem that has occurred on Virtual Pets in the past, specifically the Digital Monster version X, Japanese release. I don't know if it's true for the English, but if you have a number with a set number of digits within the code, and it exceeds the number of digits you've given it, it will cause what's known as an integer overflow, in which, because the number exceeds the number of digits that it has, it will immediately go back to 0. That's the overflow. It exceeds its container, so that it has no choice but to basically go back. So it ends up falling back. Oh shoot, it's confirmed waterproof? Nice! We have confirmation now. Awesome. Oh yeah, like I was saying, the max level Diaboromon X on the DMX was so powerful, it would actually overflow back down to being completely powerless. In theory, it's possible. It's actually part of the plot of a certain Digimon game, I won't go into which, but it's theoretically possible. If a person's brain was completely digitized, they'd basically be a Digiman at that point, I guess, or a Digiwoman. But then to go one step further and give them they'd basically be indistinguishable from a Digimon in terms of what they actually are. They just have instead of their Digicore would just look very similar to a human nervous system when examined. And I mean, technically, to a degree, the girl from Digimon Lynx, that was basically supposed to be the guide for people, could kind of be considered like a digital human, because she was an AI, right? I don't remember, I didn't actually play Lynx very much. I'm glad I can make your evil plans much easier for you. Be warned, though, my machine Digimon are already on your computer. Alright. I think with that, I am going to call it a night as well. Because it is 9:30 here now, and I haven't eaten dinner yet. So, I am going to call it an evening. Thank you everyone so much for coming, and please look forward to the next episode of Monspiracy. See ya!